Hello, all you sailors on the great river out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello is Data.
Yo.
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 7, Episode 6, Treachery, Faith, and the Great River. Oxford, on Paramount Plus, but not on the episode itself. So,
oh my god.
I don't know what's going on.
What? The world has gone mad.
Alternate title, Big Weyoun 6.
Okay. I mean, he's not that big, but...
I wanted to do a Sixth Day reference, because it has basically the same plot, but I couldn't make it work. Like, I could call it the Sixth Weyoun, but then people would be like, what's that a reference to?
It's a reference to Deep Space Nine.
But this episode originally aired November 4th, 1998. It was written by David Weddle and Bradley Thompson, story by Philip Kim, and directed by Steve Posey. So maybe some new names in there?
Yeah, a couple. I mean, so Philip Kim proposed the story idea for one story before this one, which was Honor Among Thieves.
Ah.
But those two seem to be his main contribution. Except for the fact that between 2004 and 2007, Kim worked as a production assistant and lighting assistant on the fan-made internet series Star Trek New Voyages. Ooh. So, there you go.
And I think Steve Posey is new, isn't he?
Yes, this is the first of 4 episodes that Steve Posey is going to direct. It notes here that Steve, new to Star Trek here, but has directed episodes of Babylon 5, Xena Warrior Princess, Hercules the Legendary Journeys, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Space Above and Beyond, and Dark Skies.
Ooh.
So he's out there.
Man, Space Above and Beyond, Dark Skies, like, what a bunch of great forgotten 90s classic sci-fi shows. And Cirroc Lofton is not in this episode. It is a solo Nog shenanigan.
I mean, I think it works out.
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode. So if you're watching along Star Trek Deep Space Nine for the first time, and you're listening along with us, first of all, it has taken you like 2.5 years already to get to season 7. And I'm sorry about that, but
these things happen.
It is safe to watch along with us if that is what you're doing. I guess unless you're just listening to all the back episodes at once. But sometimes we also spoil other stuff, books, TV shows, movies, anything. So, watch out. Don't get mad at us. This is a Deep Space Nine podcast. That's the only thing that's sacred.
Everything else up for grabs.
Yeah. But first things first, how do you feel about the title, Treachery, Faith, and the Great River?
I like the title. I think that it works. It's interesting because there's even a note in here that this is one of the few episodes where the title refers to both the A and B stories.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's memorable. Like, yeah. I remember that, and it's appropriate for the episode. And I think it's like clever-ish, so I think it's all around a pretty decent title.
A thing about it for me is it's a very memorable episode, and it's a very memorable title, but for some reason I'm not always able to like put those together, because every time I see that I'm like, wait, which one is that?
It's the one with the Great River.
Yeah.
You remember that I feel like I don't know that I would remember it's the Odo and Weyoun story, right, but I know that it's the Nog shenanigan story.
Right. And to me, like, the Weyoun story is like the A story. So.
It definitely is, yeah.
Yeah. But, overall it's a pretty good title, And I may have some additional comments about the title later.
Ooh.
Oh, also, what part did Philip Kim come up with? Was it the Odo story or the Nog story?
So the original idea that Philip Kim had involved Weyoun coming to Cisco, and he's like, "Hey, I need your help." the Founders are creating this new race of beings called the Modane, and they're supposed to replace the Jem'Hadar. And they're way stronger and more aggressive than the Jem'Hadar, and even more loyal to the Founders.
Oh my.
And I'm not sure what Weyoun's problem with that was, but it's easy enough to convince Sisko and crew that this would be bad. So he convinces them that it's in everyone's best interest to go and destroy the breeding facility where the Modane are being made, or are being developed.
Sure.
And so after all that happens, it turns out that Weyoun was lying, and the Modane are being made to replace the Vorta.
Ooh.
And so that was his original pitch.
It doesn't sound like it has much in common other than Weyoun being in it, but...
And so Ira Stephen Bear comes in, and he's like, hey, you know what? I think we can take this idea, and I've been wanting to do a Weyoun Odo story. So, I think we can use this to get us there.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it has anything in common, but all right. I mean, I'm willing to give Philip Kim the credit.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot related, but apparently they gave him the credits, so I assume he gets some money off of that.
Sure. I'm all for it. But anyway, prepare to get either really disturbed or really turned on, or both, as Odo gives Kira a naked goo massage. Apparently, it's not wise to play spring ball with a changeling. And honestly, I could have told you that.
Yeah, I mean, is he going full out changeling on her? Is he stretching across the court to get shots?
Yeah, I imagine his arm goes 20 feet long to reach the ball and stuff like that.
Yeah, that seems pretty unfair.
But Odo drops the news that he has to take a trip to meet with Gul Rusol, his most important informant on Cardassia. Possibly that guy he met in the cave one time.
Yeah, that's a note in here. It's that might be the same guy from Improbable Cause, but we don't know.
Right.
And may never know.
So maybe that guy is dead. How sad. We never got to, flesh out that character. But apparently Gul Rusol wants a meet. Surprising, since he's supposed to have been executed by the Dominion when they took over Cardassia. Kira rightly points out this sounds like a trap, but Odo's a good case officer. He doesn't want to risk letting his valuable informant down, just in case he is alive.
Yep. Oh man, hold on. I didn't give all of the note on the title here.
Oh, okay.
So it talks about how it works for both stories. Treachery referring to Weyoun's defection and also O'Brien's feelings towards Nog midway through the episode. Faith referring to Weyoun's loyalty to Odo and Nog's faith in the Great Material Continuum. And the Great River is both the metaphor for the Great Material Continuum and the literal meaning of Rio Grande.
Oh, dang it. That was my note I was going to say later. Oh, well.
Well, there you go. Should have said it when we were talking about the title.
So yeah, Kira wants to come with, but Gul Rusol says he wants Odo to come alone, which kind of sounds like a red flag all by itself.
I mean, we know that he was really paranoid, assuming it was him in that previous episode, so I buy it.
But wouldn't the Defiant, with all its armor and weapons and cloaking device, be way better suited to this mission?
Yeah. I mean, but that's true from Weyoun's perspective also.
Yeah. So, I feel like that was a blunder on someone's part. And meanwhile, in a B-plot so far separated from the A-plot that it could well be happening at a completely different time.
Yeah, it could be.
Except Odo isn't there. Chief O'Brien and Nog are conducting some kind of maintenance on the promenade that requires Quark's bar to be closed. Much to Quark's irritation. And this is the Armin Sherman needs a check scene for this episode. There are many such scenes in this episode. Quark threatens to file a complaint with Captain Sisko, and speak of the devil, there he is.
Put it in writing, Quark.
But that complaint isn't sounding too promising. Sisko, for his part, is more concerned about the gravity situation on the Defiant. Apparently, the graviton stabilizer is kaput, causing the gravity to be not stable, which does sound annoying.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, this is what happens if you don't stabilize your gravitons.
Yeah. Sometimes you're going to be lighter, sometimes you're going to be heavier. You need those gravitons to be stable.
I mean, that sounds like it would make you sick to your stomach, quite honestly.
Yeah. The chief says it's going to take 3 weeks to fix, But Sisko demands that it be done in 3 days.
Just, a normal captain demand.
Right, exactly.
I mean, what are you going to do if he doesn't have it done in 3 days, Sisko?
This is a good question.
You going to fire Chief O'Brien? Because I doubt that's going to work out well for you long term.
Yeah, good luck with that. The problem is the sector quartermaster is out of stock of graviton stabilizers. And he needs 3 weeks to get a new one. And I guess this is one of those things that you can't just replicate.
One of the many things that,
right,
for some reason, a replicator can't do this because it would make the story not go.
And there are many such things in this episode, apparently.
Yeah.
Sisko, however, is not sympathetic and holds firm to his 3-day deadline.
I don't care if you literally cannot get the part that you need. Figure it out.
He's going down to Bajor for a conference, and he wants the gravity fixed by the time he gets back. What kind of conference? Who knows?
It's one of those Bajoran conferences that you always hear about.
Yeah, they're always having conferences down there. I don't know. Chief O'Brien has no clue how he's going to get this done, but Nog's Ferengi sense is tingling. It sounds like you need to acquire something. If only you knew someone from a culture that centered entirely on acquiring stuff.
But no, the Federation's always talking about how they don't care about acquiring things.
Exactly. That's why he needs a Ferengi.
They can't possibly be relevant here.
Nog asks what O'Brien knows about this quartermaster, which it turns out is not much. So we have to have Nog explain the very basic concept that it's good to cultivate relationships with people.
Yeah, you'd think that O'Brien would know that much, where it's like, if somebody likes you, they're more likely to do you favors than if they don't like you.
Or even if you just talk to people, they might give you more information or, tips or something. But O'Brien says he doesn't have time to do that. So Nog volunteers to do it for him. In fact, he seems confident he can get that graviton stabilizer in 3 days. The chief gives Nog the go-ahead, but says, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And Nog says, Chief, I can't operate under those kinds of restrictions. Which is easily the best line of the episode.
At least he's honest about it.
Well, I mean, yeah. This whole project, by its very nature, is something the chief wouldn't do, because he didn't do it, so...
Well, that's a fair point, yeah.
But the chief eases his restrictions to just don't get us court-martialed, and Nog says, I'll try, which is the best anyone can really promise. But Nog seems delighted by this chance to dust off his Ferengi skills once again.
I mean, yeah, these are things that he grew up learning. It's good to be able to apply them to your job. See,
Odo's runabout arrives at some planet, and he walks into a cave to meet Gul Rusol. But Gul Rusol isn't there. It's Weyoun! After Weyoun does some of the usual founder worshipping, Odo asks him where Gul Rusol is. Oh, he's dead, says Weyoun.
Oh, yeah. You remember how you thought he was dead at that specific point in time? That was true.
So I'm surprised this worked. I thought everybody knew he was dead.
Yeah.
He's like, I had to pretend to be him to get you here. And he goes on to explain that he wants to leave the Dominion and serve Odo. Which, you could have sent a message that said, hey, Gul Rusol's dead, but this is Weyoun and I want to defect.
I mean, does that seem like more or less of a trap than this person you thought was dead is actually alive?
That's a good point. I mean, Weyoun is probably a way higher priority asset than Gul Rusol.
Yeah, but Odo feels like loyalty to Gul Rusol, whereas I feel like he'd be like, well, let Weyoun die. I don't care.
True. But I mean, someone probably would have been interested in that. I mean, they probably would have let them use the Defiant to go on that mission.
Yeah, but the gravity isn't working, so that would have been awkward.
That's true. Weyoun would be getting sick all over the place.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Odo, true to his Odo self, is skeptical of Weyoun.
Well, who wouldn't be, quite honestly?
Well, yeah, true. True to anybody who's met Weyoun. He demands to know why Weyoun wants to defect, and Weyoun says, well, there's Jem'Hadar hot on my heels. Maybe I can tell you that when we're on the road. But Odo's like, no, you can tell me now.
I mean, look, Odo, if this is a trap, you are already in the trap. You're not going to be more trapped by getting on your runabout and heading home. So,
yeah.
I feel like you're either in or out at this point. If you're in, then just take him with you. You could kill him later if you really want to.
Yeah. But Weyoun kind of deflects and equivocates for a little bit, and then settles on the story that he's being scapegoated for the poor progress of the war, and now his life is in danger. And this also includes the great line of course I'm paranoid, people are trying to kill me.
Well, yeah.
Odo is still unmoved, so then Weyoun reminds Odo that he has all kinds of great high-level secrets he can trade for amnesty.
Yeah, did you not remember that? About one of the two people leading the other side of the war?
Yeah, seriously. It's like a J.D. Vance wants to defect? Who cares? So Odo quizzes Weyoun about the location of a rumored Ketracel White storage facility, and Weyoun immediately offers up the exact location. Well, says Odo, I have no way of verifying what you just said, so that exercise was kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's all really just dragging this thing out more,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, just in or out. Let's move on.
But he's like, whatever, come along. And also, I guess they fixed that Ketracel White shortage they were having last season. I guess, did they get that fungus planet, or?
I don't know that we're ever told whether they got the fungus planet or not.
Yeah, I think that was never actually resolved, whether they gave them that planet or not.
I mean, I guess if the Federation wouldn't hand it over, they could have just attacked it. If they can take Beta Z, then surely that planet that had absolutely no strategic import would have been easy.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have discussed this before, but the mutants did recommend to give it to them, so...
Yeah, that's true, but they didn't like a lot of those recommendations that the mutants came up with.
Well, they seem to have plenty of Ketracel White now, so good for them.
Yeah. We don't have to worry about the Jem'Hadar losing their minds and dying anytime soon.
So Odo takes the treacherous yet faithful Weyoun aboard the Rio Grande, which, as we've pointed out, means Great River.
Yep.
Aboard the runabout, Odo tells Weyoun to sit where he can keep an eye on him. Weyoun keeps his usual shtick and swears he would never hurt a god. Odo insists he's not a god, he's a security officer, and Weyoun is just another prisoner as far as he's concerned.
It's very hurtful.
Yeah, this hurts Weyoun deeply, but not as deeply as the Jem'Hadar presumably will, so he lets it go. Back on the promenade, repairs seem to be going well. At least there's not wires all over the place now.
I mean, progress.
Nog goes to Chief O'Brien and tells him Edgar, the sector quartermaster, thanks him for the bottle of Gamzean wine O'Brien sent him. O'Brien says, I didn't send him any wine, and Nog is like, you really just can't read between the lines at all, can you?
I mean, okay, why can't Nog just make friends with him? Like, why does he have to pretend that it's all coming through O'Brien? Why can't he be like, hey, buddy, you know?
Yeah, also, as an ensign, doesn't Nog technically outrank the quartermaster who sounds like a chief?
Interesting thought. Did they say his rank at all?
Well, he keeps calling him like Chief Willoughby or something, so...
Yeah. Chief Willoughby.
I mean, I'm sure there's lots of officers wanting stuff, so that probably doesn't carry a lot of clout, but still.
No, yeah, you can't do that.
And to be fair, not reading between the lines is a fairly stereotypical trait of engineers, so...
Also true.
No offense to any engineers. But...
You know it's true, engineers.
You know. Anyway, Eddie is fresh out of graviton stabilizers, but he did have a hot tip that the USS Sentinel has an extra, and Nog figures they'd be willing to trade it. O'Brien says, trade for what? And then Nog says, depends on what they need and what we have. And yes, that is literally the level of explaining Nog apparently has to do for O'Brien.
I mean... I feel like O'Brien's question is valid. It's like, hey, I'll bet they'll trade it. And he's like, okay, well, what are you going to give them? And Nog's like, I don't know, something they want that we have.
Right.
Like, okay, well, come to me when your plan is more fleshed out. How about that?
True. But O'Brien is like, okay, whatever, just be discreet. And Nog quotes, I believe, Rule of Acquisition 168, whisper your way to success.
Yep, 168. Gotta love when these rules come in.
I think maybe Nog's problem in this episode is he's a little too discreet, but...
I mean, yeah, he could have let O'Brien in on some of what the plan was at various points, but then O'Brien probably would have been like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. But all Nog needs is O'Brien's authorization code so he can get moving on the shipments with no delays.
Which presumably is something you're never supposed to just hand out to other people to use, I assume. So it's weird to me that the Chief's like, oh, okay, if you say so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, also I need the last four of your social, your mother's maiden name. But back aboard the Rio Grande, Wei-Yun is barely able to contain his admiration for Odo, much to Odo's annoyance. And then they get a call from Cardassia. Oh, don't pick that up, says Wei-Yun.
It won't be anyone you want to talk to.
Right. But apparently the Cardassians have some kind of force pickup feature. And who should appear on screen but Wei-Yun?
Yeah, how often do you get double Jeffrey Combs in an episode?
I'm seeing double 4 Wei-Yuns. And then the video call switches to a wider shot, and we see that Damar is there too.
Yeah, but who cares, really?
Yeah. And then the new Wei-Yun is like, I bet your mind is blown right now. And then Odo's like, no, you're clones. I get it. This is Star Trek. I see weirder stuff than that every week. I mean, did I ever tell you about the time I went to the all-hologram planet?
I was doing, naked shapeshift massages just yesterday.
Yeah.
This isn't weird.
I am a being made of goo. You're not really blowing my mind. Also, did you clone your clothes also?
Right? Yeah. Maybe that's just the kind of outfit that he likes, so he always replicates it.
Yeah, why not?
Jeffrey Combs is quoted in here saying this is his favorite episode, not just because of the amount of screen time he get, but also because of the opportunity to play two completely different types of Wei-Yun in a single episode.
Sure.
He says, one Wei-Yun was defective, but that didn't mean he was weak, or that he wasn't manipulative, or that he couldn't see what the other Wei-Yun is doing. Finding the right balance was tricky, so it really was my most challenging show. I'd say to myself, okay, now how would that Wei-Yun say the line, and how would this Wei-Yun react to it? Yeah. I tried to make Wei-Yun 6 a different kind of, a Wei-Yun of a different color. A Wei-Yun who could align himself with the Federation and see the flaws in his leaders. That actually appealed to me. I always thought that Wei-Yun had some innate goodness in him somewhere. Okay, I think you lost me a little bit on there. But, it's just difficult to find because the Vorta are genetically designed to be loyal.
Mm-hmm.
He was blind, but now he could see, and for that he was labeled a problem. I thought of each Wei-Yun as a different slice of the same pizza. One just didn't have any pepperoni on it.
That's a horrible pizza.
Speaking of which, I don't remember if it's past yet, but there's a moment where you see Wei-Yun trying to eat pepperoni pizza with chopsticks, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, we'll get to that
okay.
in a bit. But yeah, so the new Wei-Yun goes on to explain that the Wei-Yun we've been seeing since, I guess that first Wei-Yun we met got vaporized was Wei-Yun 5.
Yeah, so that must have been Wei-Yun 4.
Right, 4 or earlier. I think, did that Wei-Yun ever explain that he was Wei-Yun 5 before? I forget.
No, we definitely... all he did was explain that, oh yeah, we're clones. That's why I'm the same guy that you saw disintegrated.
Gotcha. So anyway, but yeah, Wei-Yun 5 died a month ago. Mysteriously, says Wei-Yun, glancing meaningfully at Damar.
In some sort of weird transporter accident. I don't know.
Yeah, Damar's like, that was ruled to be not foul play. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, Wei-Yun on the Rio Grande is Wei-Yun 6. Wei-Yun with Damar is Wei-Yun 7. Clones, says Damar. Who can keep track of them? Which we're talking about 3 guys. It's not complicated.
I mean, it does make you question why even bother to murder that one if another one just shows up the next day, unless that one learned something he shouldn't have.
Yeah, or possibly, I think Damar just doesn't quite understand the concept.
Damar didn't know they were clones until he killed that one and another one showed up the next day.
Or maybe he just thought, I'll get along with the new one better.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Anyway, Wei-Yun 6 has been deemed defective, as evidenced by the current situation of him trying to defect to the Federation.
I mean, defective clone defecting, yeah. That kind of makes sense.
That's true, it tracks. Wei-Yun 7 orders Wei-Yun 6 to activate his self-termination implant. And Wei-Yun 6 says, no.
What valuable information for the Federation to have now that all Vorta have these implants. Maybe we can figure out a way to remotely trigger them.
Yeah. Although, I was thinking about that, I was like, because this, if you just walk up to a Vorta and poke him behind the ear, that'd be it. But I mean, Vorta aren't really front lines kind of guys, so and
That's
they're
true.
all clones, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, if in the middle of the battle you can take out some of the leaders of the battle, then maybe.
True.
But I'm thinking more like a signal of some sort
sure,
that could
yeah.
trigger it. Although if they could do that easily, the Dominion would have just done it. So I don't
Right. Who knows? Yeah, definitely something Section 31 might want to look into.
know. Yeah, those guys probably won't ever show up again.
So yeah, so Wayun 6 refuses to activate his termination implant. Damar is like, well, telling him to kill himself didn't work.
Yeah, it's like, is that really what we called up to do? Because I could have told you that wouldn't work.
So he's like, I guess we just have to blow them up. And Wayun 6 says, that's a bluff. Wayun 7 would never harm a founder. But Damar is like, oh, but I will. And then they hang up. And then Odo turns to Wayun 6 and says, okay, what's going on? And Wayun says, okay, well, I've decided that I'm anti-war. I still think the founders are gods, but also they're gods who are wrong.
Yeah.
He thanks Odo for protecting him, and Odo says, I'm just doing what I would do for any prisoner. And Wayun says, of course, you're a god. That's a well-known trait of gods.
See, I feel like it's not that big a leap to be like the gods could be wrong, because
Sure.
you know Odo, and Odo feels the opposite way from the other founders about this.
True.
So
true.
clearly, one of the two sets of Odo or all the other gods are wrong. So either way, gods can be wrong.
This is very true. Yeah, this might be like a short circuit in the blind devotion to the founders programming. But yeah, back on Cardassia, Wayun 7 and Damar 1, I guess, discuss the defective clone situation. The founders are perfect gods, of course, but they do make mistakes. And that doesn't make me question my faith one bit. Oh, by the way, it strikes me as interesting that you were supposed to be on that transporter pad with Wayun 5 when he died. What's up with that? And Damar says, well, wouldn't it be really dumb of me to kill someone on a transporter pad I was supposed to be on? Wouldn't that point the finger directly back at me? And Wayun is like, sure, but also I think you might be that dumb.
I mean, he might just have been drunk.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Or alcoholic, who knows?
He might be drunk right now.
Right, yeah, as Damar downs a glass of Kanar. Anyway, says Wayun, what are we going to do about the Wayun 6 situation? Easy, says Damar. We go after him with some Jimidar. If Odo doesn't hand the other Wayun over, we blow them both up. Well, I can't approve of that, says Wayun. I'm pretty sure it's against one of my 10 commandments to kill one of my gods.
It probably should be if it's not.
Sure, says Damar, but remember, he knows all of our strategic secrets. If he makes it back to Deep Space Nine, it'll be even worse than the time I invited that reporter to our group chat.
Oh, topical.
That'll still be fresh in 2 weeks when this goes online.
It'll happen again. It's fine.
Okay, but the Jimidar won't fire on Odo, even if they're ordered to. Well, just don't tell them Odo's on the runabout, says Damar. Tell them it's being driven by, I don't know, Quark.
I love how, like, quickly Wayun gets on board with killing Odo.
Yeah, he's like, well, Odo doesn't even consider himself a founder, so okay, that's enough of a loophole for me to be okay with this.
But also don't tell like the female shapeshifter because she will not be okay with this.
Yeah, don't tell any of the other founders. We will be in big trouble. Damar offers Wayun some Kanar and he turns it down. So Damar just drinks it.
I like how he thinks like I've slightly corrupted him now by getting him to agree to this. So maybe he'll take a drink now.
Yeah. So also at this point, I think I want to bring up the note that just all these scenes of Wayun and Damar just make it seem like Wayun and Damar are like the only two guys in the whole Dominion.
Yeah, I mean, I just assume they're the decision makers.
Sure.
But it is weird that you never see anybody else.
Like, did you ever catch up with season 1 of Andor, of which season 2 is going?
No, I never watched any Andor.
Like, just one of the things that was like so amazing about Andor is it just like it showcases the massive bureaucracy of the Empire. And we just see these like layers on top of layers of like, you know, you really believe this is just like a massive like thing that could dominate the galaxy.
Oh, interesting.
And, you know, like we have like these conference meetings with like, you know, 30 people in them talking about stuff. And then We see like at one point, one of the characters applies for like a low-level cubicle job in the Empire's bureaucracy and stuff like that. And we see like their security contractors, and we see all kinds of stuff, and you're like, yeah, like this Empire is a big deal. And then here it's just like these two guys like doing everything themselves, like that fantasy that Smithers had when they were running the power plant by themselves with Mr. Burns.
Classic.
So I don't know. That's just something that struck me as weird, and I'm getting excited for that new season of Andor. So. Hopefully it lives up to the new one, or the first one. But back on Deep Space Nine, it's Nicole DeBoer needs a check time, so...
Yep, gotta get her in there for a minute.
So they have Ezri waiting outside the turbo lift when O'Brien arrives in Ops. And she warns the chief that Kira is mad at him. And in the captain's office, we see why. The captain's desk is missing. And it was the chief's authorization code that was used to move it.
See, that's why you don't do that.
Yeah. The chief has learned a very valuable lesson this episode, for sure.
I certainly hope he learned it.
Yeah. O'Brien reasons that Nog must have traded the desk for a graviton stabilizer.
Yeah, everyone knows that desks and graviton stabilizers are equal in rarity.
Right, yeah. Kira says the desk better be back by the time the captain returns. I have a feeling he'll be more mad about the desk than about the stabilizer. Later, Nog explains to the chief that he didn't give away the captain's desk. He just lent it to a guy who likes to take pictures with the desks of famous captains. And maybe do other stuff with the desks. I don't know. This guy had kind of a weird vibe.
So, there's a note in here that the idea of an officer who wants to sit behind Sisko's desk was Ira Bear's joke about how obsessed Trekkies can become.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Got him.
That's his dig at the fans, I guess. Also, apparently this B story is based on Catch-22.
Oh.
Which I have not read. I tried reading it one time and could not get into it. So, but it says Nog is taking the role of Milo Minderbinder. Aaron Eisenberg said this was Nog taking the same energy and Ferengi ideals he'd had before joining Starfleet and incorporating them into his goals in Starfleet. What I love about him having an honest Ferengi in Starfleet is he knows how to manipulate the situation.
Yeah. No, it's totally a good character move for Nog. Like, totally fits.
Yeah. He's like, in Starfleet, you have to go through all these channels to get stuff done. Nog just feels like you don't have to do that.
Yeah. No, totally. I totally buy it.
And he says, no one else in Starfleet would have done this the way that Nog did. And I'm like, yeah, maybe.
I mean, he's the only Ferengi in Starfleet, so.
Yeah. It works out. I mean, yeah, no one else probably would have taken their captain's desk and, like, lent it to someone on another planet.
Right.
That's true.
But, yeah, so anyway, a desk fetish guy has an induction modulator, which Nog can trade to the USS Musashi for a phaser emitter. And you know who needs a phaser emitter? The USS Sentinel, the guys with the extra graviton stabilizer.
I guess we don't have any extra phaser emitters.
Right,
so.
Yeah. And none of this stuff can also be replicated, so.
Right.
Or that's the rumor that Nog has heard. O'Brien is not thrilled to hear that this all depends on a rumor, so Nog tells him to have faith in the great material continuum. What's that? Says the chief. Is that like the Q continuum?
I don't have faith in them.
So Nog educates the chief on the Ferengi concept of the great material continuum, which is kind of like the Force, but for commerce. Or as Nog describes it, a great river that flows through the universe. And if you navigate this river with skill and grace, your ship will be filled with everything your heart desires. Okay, says Chief O'Brien, my heart desires a graviton stabilizer and the captain's desk.
Yep.
The river will provide, says Nog confidently. So this is Nog's faith. So yeah, man, this title just does work on so many levels.
Yeah, see?
But the chief says, if the river doesn't sink it first, or sink us first, or whatever. Back on the other great river, Wayun is having an uneasy sleep, and he wakes up and describes a nightmare he had about not being able to find the office he was looking for, then being chased by some Jim'Hadar, or possibly Klingons.
Both bad, so, you know.
Yeah, both sound scary.
I don't want to get chased by either of those.
For once, Odo feels some sympathy. He knows it's not easy to turn your back on your own people. Wayun wonders if Starfleet will let Odo conduct his debriefing. You can just tell Odo stuff right now, but whatever.
To prove yourself when you get there.
But too late. Something fires on them. It's the Jem'Hadar. They found them. Weyoun is surprised that they would shoot at Odo and deduces that they must not have been told he's on board. They try to call the Jem'Hadar ship, but apparently they don't have that force answer technology, so it doesn't work.
No, that's just a Cardassian thing.
Yeah. So I really got to tell you about this great technology we have. It makes people pick up the phone on the other end.
Cardassians have like weird laws about telemarketers. You don't even know. You have to buy what is being sold.
It's like that episode of Black Mirror where, like, if you close your eyes when the porn is playing, it plays a loud pitched sound, so you have to open your eyes again.
Why?
So that you want to buy the porn.
Huh, okay.
You never saw that episode of Black Mirror?
I've never seen any episodes of Black Mirror.
That's like I think one of the most classic ones from season 1. So anyway, Weyoun says, okay, try getting above them. And Odo is like, what do you mean above? This is space. But Weyoun says to shoot the ship in the dorsal field junction. That's where their shields are weakest. So Odo tries it, and the Jem'Hadar ship immediately blows up after one shot. So that's quite a defect.
Very weak shields.
Yeah.
We're learning valuable lessons already.
Yep. Weyoun is gloomy that he's killed loyal servants of the Dominion and prays that the Founders forgive him. And Odo brings up the point that, haven't you considered that maybe the only reason you think the Founders are gods is that they want you to, and they coded it into your DNA? And Weyoun says, well, obviously, yes, that's what gods do. Why be a god if there's no one to worship you? Or in the words of the great Earth poet Kanye West, what's a god to a non-believer? So then O'Brien goes to Rom and asks him if he's seen Nog, and Rom says, oh, he took a runabout and left the station.
Yeah, he it was your access code that let him out, so I figured you knew.
O'Brien says, well, at least with him gone, nothing else can go missing. Hard cut to Martok and Worf looking at some empty boxes, and Martok yelling, what in the hell happened to my blood wine?
Yeah, you should know better than to say stuff like that, Chief.
Yeah. Haven't you ever watched a TV show before? On Cardassia, Damara is upset that Odo was able to blow up the Jem'Hadar ship. Whatever, says Weyoun, just send more ships from Olmarok and tell them to fire on sight.
From over there,
Yeah.
Why not?
We have a base over there, conveniently. Fire at whom? Cuts in a familiar voice. It's Boom Boom Parkins. Oh, hey, Founder, says Weyoun.
There's a Federation runabout that previous Weyoun is defecting to, and so we're going to destroy it, they could have said.
Right, no, but he says, just a random Federation runabout we found snooping around.
And then she's like, hey, what's up with that Weyoun thing? He's like, yeah, we don't know, we'll let you know. And I was like, well, you could have looked like you were good at your job, but no.
Not well played. But yeah, Boom Boom Parkins is just like, well, that sounds like something the ruler of Cardassia would get directly involved in. No further questions. And then Damar asks Boom Boom, hey, why do you look so wrinkly? And then she's like, because it's hot in here. I gotta go, bye. Hurry up and find Weyoun 6.
Why do you look so drunk? He's like, touche.
That would have been a great comeback. On the runabout, Weyoun uses, as you mentioned, a chopstick to spear a single pepperoni off a slice of pizza and takes a little nibble out of it, which is apparently the last bite of a grand sampling of the replicator menu.
Pepperoni pizza, bottom of the list of things to try from the replicator.
Right. There's 2 Z's in pizza, so that, it was just at the end of I don't know.
It's alphabetical by
letter
number
frequency
of letters.
or something.
Yeah,
I don't know how the future works. Weyoun says he enjoyed all the different textures. Vorta don't have a great sense of taste. The only foods they enjoy are kava nuts and ripple berries.
Well, who doesn't enjoy a good ripple berry?
Oh, sounds kind of good. Just another way the Founders keep them humble. Then Weyoun tells Odo the origin story of the Vorta. You see, they were once little ape-like creatures that lived in hollowed-out trees, so I'm imagining something along the lines of Smurfs.
Okay, I don't think Smurfs are particularly ape-like, but all right, I'm with you.
But, I mean, they're forest-dwelling creatures. They live in mushrooms or whatever, so...
They do. It's true.
I just like to imagine they had this, happy little society and they were singing songs all the time. But one day, a wounded changeling was running from a mob of angry solids, and a Vorta family hid the changeling and protected it. As a reward, the changeling promised that one day the Vorta would be great, powerful beings that have no sense of taste or aesthetics or other things and have implants that make them kill themselves.
They have bad eyesight, too, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, bad eyesight. That was another one. But they would be part of a great galactic empire. Some of you will even be able to shoot magic lightning balls.
Yeah, but not many.
Right. Or you just won't choose to. I don't know. It's not clear.
Yeah, I guess that could be. That's true. Yeah.
But Odo likes the thought that maybe his people are capable of such generosity and kindness. Then Weyoun drops some bombshell news to Odo. The founders are sick. He saw Boom Boom Parkins getting shrivelly hands one day, and she told him all about it. The whole Link is sick. Wait, thinks Odo. Boom Boom Parkins has been trapped in the Alpha Quadrant since we mined the wormhole. If she got sick from the Great Link, that means she was already sick when I linked with her last season. And we did all kinds of nasty stuff.
I mean, he doesn't know how the disease could be transmitted.
I don't know, but I just gotta imagine he's like, do I need to get checked for something?
Yeah, you did do a lot of stuff with her, maybe.
Anyway, Weyoun is pretty sure that all the changelings are dying. And when that happens, Odo will be the last remaining changeling. And thus, he will be able to single-handedly take over the Dominion and reshape it however he pleases. Odo says, and what's your role in this new Dominion? And Weyoun's like, I don't know, Secretary of State? I'm not picky.
I want to be Surgeon General, please.
And then there's a beep. Some Jim'Hadar ships have caught up with them.
It's a bad beep.
Yeah. We know these beeps. That's a bad one for sure. Odo asks Weyoun how they can survive an attack from 4 Jim'Hadar ships. And he's like,
get above all of them.
He's like, I don't know, do that same thing you did earlier, but 4 times? But instead, Odo comes up with a plan to hide in a nearby Kuiper Belt. Which I guess Kuiper Belts are a general thing, like not just limited to our solar system. So
yeah.
Weyoun points out that the Kuiper Belt is made of ice chunks, and the runabout is made of not ice. The Jim'Hadar sensors can presumably tell the difference.
Their ice to not ice differentiation engine will be able to sort that.
They have this technology, trust me. Ah, says Odo, you need to think like a changeling. We must become the ice. So he flies into a big ice crack and turns off the power so that their temperature matches the ice. Weyoun is impressed.
Wait, won't we be slightly warmer than the ice unless we literally do become ice?
Nah. You will just literally become ice. And then Weyoun Odo shapeshifts into a big block of ice. He's like, well, I'm safe. You have luck.
Yeah,
good luck.
Exactly.
But in Captain Sisko's office, Alexander Siddig needs a check. So O'Brien has Bashir look at the new replacement desk he got for the captain.
I mean, we know that desks are a replicatable commodity.
Yeah.
Can't you just replicate the same desk the captain had?
Yeah, I was like, is this desk made of latinum? What's up with this desk? But Bashir points out that the new desk looks nothing like the old one and is generally kind of crappy.
It's way smaller. It's just ludicrous how different this desk is.
And then Kira comes in and proves his point by noticing that that's obviously not the captain's desk.
You don't say. I'm so glad you were here to point this out, Nerys.
And then Martok comes in and is very unhappy that O'Brien's authorization code was used to steal his 16 cases of blood wine that his wife sent him.
I mean, this seems like a pretty reasonable thing to be upset about, quite frankly.
I totally feel for him. Like, I would be pretty mad. Back on the runabout, Weyoun is very cold and asks Odo if he turned off the life support. And Odo says yes. And Weyoun says, okay, well, I kind of need that to support my life, but whatever, it's all good.
Yeah, there's a note in here about, it's not clear why air or an appropriate temperature are needed to keep Odo alive, since he does not eat, and presumably has no metabolism that would need oxygen to metabolize fuel, and temperature to maintain metabolic reaction rates without protein decomposition. He actually seems to stand the freeze without too many problems, as opposed to Weyoun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It kind of bothered me, because he started, breathing heavy, kind of like you do when you're cold. And I was like, does Odo breathe? Why is he breathing like that?
Who knows?
Yeah, whatever. But then there's a rumbling. The Jim'Hadar are just going around shooting all the ice chunks. And then Odo's like, well, I guess I should have seen that coming. That plan didn't work.
Crap, I forgot that the Jem'Hadar frequently resolve all of their problems by shooting them.
Right. So he powers up the runabout and they make a run for it. A runabout run for it.
Ooh, yeah.
And then a fire breaks out and Odo asks Weyoun to put it out, which Weyoun takes a weirdly long time to get around to doing.
Yeah, like he's like, wait, fire putting out?
He's like,
that wasn't part of the deal.
There's a fire. Seriously, put it out. Oh my god, it's getting bigger.
That wasn't part of our deal, Blackheart. That wasn't part.
But when Weyoun's done putting out the fire, he calls Damar and the other Weyoun on Cardassia. I guess those signals weren't jammed like the other ones.
Well, no, just the Jem'Hadar just weren't picking up the phone. It's fine.
Weyoun 6 says to call off the attack, and then he turns on his termination implant. Or at least he touches behind his ear and then starts acting like he's dying.
Yeah, I was like, couldn't you just fake that?
Yeah. Yeah, the other Weyoun and Damar have no way of knowing if he's actually dead, and in fact, they hang up before he's even finished dying. But Damar is worried Odo might have been using all this alone time with Weyoun to get important information out of him.
Which he should have.
Yeah, and Odo thinks, oh man, that probably would have been really smart. But Weyoun 7 is satisfied enough. He hangs up the call and calls off the attack. Odo takes Weyoun 6 in his arms. Weyoun reveals that the termination implant is not as painless as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah, he's like, they always told us it was painless. It's not.
Do you know how expensive those painless implants would be? No. And he asks Odo to give him his blessing, and Odo's like, I don't know, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not comfortable with... He's like, come on, dude, I'm dying.
Yeah, then he gives in, and he gives Weyoun his blessing, and it's very emotional, and Weyoun dies happy. Back on Deep Space Nine, Captain Sisko is back from his conference, and he's called O'Brien to his office. O'Brien walks to the captain's office, fully expecting to get shot or something. But when he gets in the office, he finds Sisko sitting behind his desk. The right desk. And Nog is in there polishing it. Yeah, says Nog. It came back with a bunch of weird stains all over it. I don't know. Also good news, Nog got that stabilizer. Sisko asks how long it will be to install on the Defiant, and the chief says 8 hours. You have 2, says Sisko. Motherfucker, mumbles the chief under his breath.
Yeah, it's really like, why did you even ask if that's the way it's gonna be, dude?
Yeah. Sisko just, he's all on that Captain Kirk energy. You know?
Yeah. That's why you gotta pull a Scotty and
just lie
like,
about how long everything takes.
Yeah.
Also, Nog was able to replace Martok's blood wine with an even better vintage of blood wine, and Martok is happy. Nog recommends his cousin Gant for any future liquor needs. Nog mentions to O'Brien that Gant has some cases of Saurian brandy, the captain's favorite, although it's never been mentioned before, I don't think.
I might have. I know I've heard of Saurian brandy.
Sure.
But, yeah, it's one of... Hold on. Saurian brandy. Let's see how often that gets mentioned here. Okay, Strange New World, Star Trek Beyond. Who cares what they said? The Man Traps. It pops up in TOS a lot. DS9. Oh, Emissary. It says, Quark kept bottles of Saurian brandy in his bar aboard Deep Space Nine. All right. Apparently that's from Emissary, but that doesn't really tell us much. Quark and Bashir. Grand Nagus Zek. Trying to see if there's any reference to Sisko and Saurian brandy. Not until this episode, at least. So.
Okay. I mean, it seems like Sisko would be all about, like, a classic Earth drink.
He likes root beer, you know? What can you do?
Yeah, we haven't heard about root beer in a while. He's from New Orleans, so maybe he likes that, like, Sazerac or whatever. But, O'Brien asks Nog how much Gant wants for the Saurian brandy, clearly showing that he's getting into the whole material continuum thing. Well, Nog, it sounds like you had a really fun adventure, says the chief. I wish I could have seen it.
It sounds like it would have involved too many
Yeah.
guest actors and special effects.
Yeah, it would have had. It sounds like it would have had lots of new sets, new guest stars.
We would have
Man,
had to
I bet
like
it was
move this big ass desk into a different set or
great. Right.
something.
But back home on Deep Space Nine, Odo talks with Kira about everything he went through. Kira assures Odo, as a person of faith, that dying with your god smiling at you is the best way to go. Was I smiling? Thinks Odo.
Probably not.
Whatever. I went back and checked, and he definitely was not. He's sad about his people dying, but Kira is like, yeah, but they kind of suck, though, so don't get too upset about it. And since we're on the subject, do I need to get checked for anything? The end.
I love the note. This is the last, spoiler, I guess, of 3 episodes in which Nog creates a long chain of trades of unrelated products to acquire his end goal.
Yeah, it's only 3? Wow.
This is the only one of the 3 in which he does not work with Jake.
Yeah. I feel like, well, you know, maybe we need to get Jake out of the way to let Nog shine this episode. I don't know.
I was like to note, this is the first episode in which Damar expresses a strong sense of patriotism, mentioning all that Cardassia has lost in the Dominion War. So
I feel like that can't possibly be true.
yeah, I was like, did he never give a crap about Cardassia before? That seems unlikely, but...
And I feel like being sad that your, like, homeland has lost a lot in the war is
normal?
Not, like, in a special level of patriotism.
Yeah, that's just being a person.
Yeah.
And there's a note about the Vorta origin story. The origins, or possible origins, of the Vorta are revealed in this episode. Our Stephen Bear came up with the story, and of it, he says, I like to get the audience thinking one way about a character or a race, make them think that these are definitely the bad guys. Then you slip something like this in, so they have to reevaluate the opinion you've already given them. These are still the bad guys, but now, at least, you can understand something about why. So I just love that the Vorta, this calculating Machiavellian race, started out as hobbit-like cute creatures who were genetically altered and directed to do these horrible things.
Did Bradley Weddle or David Weddle and Bradley Thompson or whatever, the actual writers of the episode, contribute any of the ideas to it?
I mean, you know, that's a fair question that
I mean,
no one will ever be able to answer.
I love Ira Stephen Bear. His Dofoob investigation is still pending, but it's like everything is just like all the great ideas he had for the episode.
And that's all the notes except for a note about Cinefantastique, which ranked this the 10th best episode of Deep Space Nine.
Oh yes, the good old Cinefantastique list.
Yep.
Have we? I assume like the finale has got to be on there, so I don't think we've seen the whole list yet. But
search again. I remember trying to find it before and having trouble finding it.
We only get like one episode at a time of what's on this list.
Yeah, and Google's not helping me again. So
oh well. So what about our reviews of Treachery, Faith, and the Great River? What do you think?
Okay, Treachery, Faith, and the Great River. Let's see.
Possibly with an Oxford comma, possibly without.
Well, that makes a big difference in, you know, it does not have one in Memory Alpha, that's for sure.
It does not have one?
No.
Okay. I think that must be the official, because that's what it is on the actual episode itself.
Yes, on the title card, it shows a picture of the title here over Odo and Wayun looking at each other, and it sure does not have it. So, okay, so I like the B story. A lot of fun Nog shenanigans.
Yeah. And
I love that O'Brien has gotten like caught up in the shenanigans and is just like, make it stop, please. Like, this is almost another O'Brien must suffer, but everything works out okay in the end. So it's just like the trip getting there is unfortunate for him. Also, you gotta remember Nog like outranks him technically.
Right.
So like, but he's like Nog's boss. It's a whole weird thing.
Right.
But so I enjoy that part, and also I enjoy the A story. I think pretty well. It's really just a bunch of Odo and Wayun like chatting in a runabout, and then a little bit of Wayun and Damar chatting in a different room. And so it's not like a big, cool, interesting thing, but for what it is, I think it's done pretty well. And
Sure.
also, we got 2 Jeffrey Combs. You gotta love the 2 Jeffrey Combs going at it.
Yeah.
It almost feels a little too easy that they introduce like, we called just to say, hey, kill yourself. No, I don't want to kill myself. And then at the end, it's like, okay, fine, I'll do the kill myself thing. Like, it almost feels too easy. It could have been much more dramatic if he didn't have a thing that just kills him quickly, and then at the end, maybe you don't see it coming as much when he's like, wait, no, I'll sacrifice myself so that you guys won't kill Odo, and then he has to kill himself in some other way that you didn't see coming.
True.
Because before they brought up the possibility that you would kill yourself, you would be like, oh, Wei-Yun would never kill himself. Like, he's much too like selfish for that. So
that's true.
It felt like a weird out of nowhere introduction to this thing in his head, and then I don't know that there's ever a reference to it again. So it's kind of not necessary, I don't think. But anyway, that's kind of a small nitpick. Overall, I think it's a solid episode. It's not like great or anything. It's not gonna hit captain level for me, but this is one that I will watch again, that I will enjoy, and that I had fun with here. So I think it's a solid commander for me.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I really like this episode despite several things that normally would be glaring flaws. So,
okay.
First of all, what should be a fun and Nog-driven trading adventure is just Nog disappearing and Chief O'Brien waiting around for him to come back. Although, the comedic potential of that angle is flawlessly executed. And as you pointed out, the many scenes of Odo and Wei-Yun just sitting in the runabout talking get kind of visually monotonous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of thinking back to the duet when, I mean, there were a lot of scenes just of talking in the brig or whatever, the holding cells.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like a big space, and, there was a lot of cool playing with angles and stuff on that. Like, you can't do that on the runabout. Like, you can pretty much just have, like, the camera on Odo or Wei-Yun.
Yeah, I mean, the runabout's supposed to have more room in the back, but we never see it, really.
Right.
So you could have done some more of that, but I don't know that that's a standing set that they have, so.
Yeah. But the actual, like, drama and acting and all that stuff is really good. So that kind of makes up for it. I also like that it has kind of a fresh take on the founders as gods thing, which, is something we've seen a bunch, but I kind of like seeing Wei-Yun's internal conflict, like disagreeing with the founders, but also revering them. So I thought that was played with in a really fun and effective way.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely, because we are obviously of the default, well, it's like, obviously the founders are not gods. And so we never give it that much consideration. And then in this episode, he kind of brings it out where it's like, yeah, I'm not stupid. I know all the same stuff you know, but that doesn't change my faith. And so it's definitely, I agree. It gives you a different angle on that. That's interesting to see.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you saw the movie Heretic.
No.
Which is about, like, Hugh Grant plays an atheist who kidnaps 2 Mormon girls and puts them through, like, a big mind game to try to get them to convert to atheism or something. I don't know. But kind of one of my takeaways from that movie was, like, no, they understand all the stuff about their religion that sounds stupid, but, like, what they get out of their religion is, it's more important to them than stuff being true or making sense. Like, they totally, like, are self-aware enough to, like, understand how they're perceived, but, like, they have their whole own angle on it. So but anyway, yeah, so all that stuff was really good, like that examination of that stuff, and Odo kind of seeing this different side of, like, Wei-Yun and the Vorta and the Dominion and stuff, even if this is like a defective Vorta. But in general, there's like lots of new lore. There's some important plot information in this episode. Maybe some stuff will come back. Who knows? And as you said, Jeffrey Combs is great. So I think for me, I'm willing to put this all the way up to captain. Like,
wow, okay.
It's not the highest captain we've ever seen, but
Sure.
I think there has been a little bit of a shifting baseline on the captains. And, this is, again, we've mentioned this before, but if we're going back to like standards of earlier seasons, I think this could definitely be a captain. So,
okay.
But I'm pretty happy and comfortable calling it a captain. So,
yeah, makes sense.
Anyway, any final thoughts?
No, not really.
So, yeah, that's our discussion of Treachery, Faith, and the Great River. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of, various Wayun or Dominion episodes.
Or the other 2 episodes about Nog pulling some shenanigans,
Like In the Cards, that's a great one.
Yep, In the Cards.
I always talk about these as if, like, the review will be as entertaining as the episode itself.
Progress was the other one, by the way. That's all the way back in season 1.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. That's the
No-J Consortium.
The No-J Consortium with the Yamek sauce. Yep, all good stuff. You can find all of our past episodes, maybe future episodes, wherever you're listening to this. And we have a YouTube channel, and you can leave comments on it, and we might respond to them. But my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But just remember, don't do anything I wouldn't do.
I can't work under those kind of restrictions.
Fair.